Shoalhaven Heads is a popular residential and tourist area on the south coast of New South Wales. It is located on the northern bank of the Shoalhaven River. The town offers a variety of shops and community activities, one of which is the local golf club. Hi, I'm John Devenish. We're here today at the Shoalhaven Heads golf course. It's an auspicious week for the golf club. They're opening the final holes of their 18-hole golf course. I'm here today to meet David Lamb and Terry Lilly, two stalwarts of the volunteers, and have a talk about the history of the club. There's a buzz of excitement here among the volunteers this week. G'day Dave, I'm John Devenish.
Hey John.
And you're Terry Lilly. Lilly. This is a big week for you fellas.
Sure is. Yeah, it's been a culmination of 31 years of hard work and dedicated effort by the club to get to this stage.
So when did it start?
Started back in 1981 with the original meeting at a little hall in the middle of Shoalhaven Heads.
Right. And what, that was a meeting of interested folk?
Yep. Public meeting of interested folk, yep. And it progressed from there to forming a committee, and it's just progressed on from there. After 1981, there was three design and construction groups consulted regarding the 9-hole course. Of the three, Ken Mackay of Mackay and Sons of Wollongong was the only one who saw his way to help the club to bring this all into being. Council approval was then granted to the club in May 1985, and then clearing began in earnest with the help of Ollie Jenkins and his dozer on a voluntary basis. After the clearing was completed, it became obvious that the land itself lent itself much more to an 18-hole course than a 9-hole course. And then extended negotiations then proceeded with the council and the Department of Lands, and in the meantime the development of the 9-hole course was put on hold, except for the first 3 holes. These were opened in October 1994, and this was made possible by a small band of volunteers headed by the late Arthur Simmons, who actually mowed the first fairways with the Victor lawnmower.
So why was it put on hold?
It was put on hold basically because we started negotiating for the 18 holes, but also in 1993 the federal government introduced the Native Title Act, and that really did put a hold on things until that eventually went through the High Court.
So what, this club had to go through the High Court?
The Lands Department had to go through the High Court because they had to lodge what is called a non-claimant claim on the land to call forward any interested groups of Aboriginal people that had an interest in the land.
And then that had to go to the High Court?
That ended up in the High Court, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you designed the course to be 9 holes and you built 3 holes. Why didn't you go ahead and do the 9?
Simple matter of finances and manpower.
What, not enough volunteers?
No, not at the time, and the club was pretty well strapped for cash, being only a small voluntary organisation. So rather than leave the whole thing in limbo, we decided, well, okay, at least we can get 3 holes underway.
So you played the 3 holes, just the 3 holes?
Played the 3 holes 3 times for 9.
Well, that's pretty smart.
Yeah, you just got a bit dizzy going round and round.
Well, can you tell us about those 3 holes then?
Yeah, well, the first 3 holes, the first was a par 4, followed by a par 3 and then another par 4. And as I said, 3 times around makes 9.
How many years did you have to play the 3 holes?
Well, we opened those in 1994, and then in 1996 we progressed to the 6 holes, and then it wasn't until late 1997 that we went to the 9.
Right.
And it was in that year that Joanna Gash officially opened it as a 9-hole course.
Yeah, well, we played the 9 holes for nearly 6 years, and then we put in another DA to expand to 15 holes. And during that time, we had to do another vegetation management plan to plan where we put trees and that sort of stuff to appease the various government authorities. And then by 2003, we were able to open up, but in the meantime, we managed to get a grant from DOTARS, and that was, I think it was around about $90,000.
It was, yeah.
Which helped us enormously. So So once that was open, well, we're playing 15 holes.
You've got a fairly substantial clubhouse here, and how did you start off with the clubhouse?
Well, we started off originally with the converted shipping container, which served as both clubhouse and machinery shed. Then we progressed from that when someone donated us an old garage, which became clubhouse number 2. We added on to that, which basically became clubhouse number 3, and unfortunately that was the one that was burnt down.
What happened?
Well, there was obviously an arson attack because it was about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning that I was called out, and the fire was here. It was completely engulfed in flame, but we found a container that was obviously kerosene just on the concrete just outside. Once that mess was all cleared up, we used Harry's Cafe de Wheels as a little halfway house with a few tents and tarpaulins.
And was that brought here?
Yeah.
Yep, that was from Tall Timbers Caravan Park.
They
loaned it to us, yep.
Right.
And in the meantime, we heard that the Albatross Golf Club at HMS Albatross was going to be closed and that they were going to demolish their clubhouse. So we had a member at the time who was involved in Albatross, and he organised for them to be able to donate that clubhouse to us. We brought it out here in 3 sections, ably assisted by members of the club. That cost us $10,000, and that is what we're sitting in now. And the only thing that's happened with it since then is there's been an additional 2 verandas put on, and that's as it is today.
It's quite a credit to you.
Well, again, wouldn't have been possible without a huge contribution by volunteers, carpenters, plumbers, electricians, the whole works. And it's
Well, it's the community coming together again.
yep.
Yeah. Well, we had, any one day it'd be nothing to have 10 to a dozen blokes pouring all over it, somebody doing some painting, someone handing tools to we had three carpenters, professional carpenters, and there were so many people there helping, handing and timbers and all that sort of stuff. So until it was all finished, it was a great project and some great camaraderie in it. Yeah.
Yep.
But the pro shop started from the time that we collected the money in the container.
That's right. Yeah.
Where you put the whole. We had a slot in the container, and
an honesty box.
An honesty box where there was an envelope supplied, and what you did is you put the money in there and then shoved it in the box.
And off you went and played.
And then it developed from there. When we did have a room of such, it was just mainly where somebody would man it, and that was Ron McFarlane, who sat there and collected the money.
Yeah, and that went right through with Ronnie doing it until just after the fire which destroyed the clubhouse. And it was then that we investigated the idea of having a professional on the course. Yeah, Shane Cochran took over after the fire, and he stayed with us for a few years. And about that time then Cess Montgomery retired from the bank, and he became very interested in the whole course, became club captain and contributed a hell of a lot. Currently our professional is a young chap from Narandra named Greg Collins, who's an excellent pro and teaching pro, and he's very well assisted by his very nice young wife Jo.
A couple of years down the track we decided, well, now it's time to have a go for the 18, and it took us close to 4 years through various, once again, government authorities to get permission, and over $100,000 in environmental searches to ensure that we get our DA approved. After many years of searches, every time we'd come up with something, the people that from council and the Lands Department and various government bodies kept on asking for various searches. When we thought we're just about there, they'd asked, you've got to do a search for the powerful owl. Or then you'd have to do a search on the long-nosed potteroo, etc., etc. This went on for a couple of years until finally, and as I say, over $100,000 in money, we finally got our DA. And on the 2nd of August 2011, we had the people in clearing the bush, and we also had to have keep quite a few hollow-bearing trees, where after we cleared all the bush, we went round the hollow-bearing trees. Finally, after many months of clearing and putting in pipework, irrigation, sowing the greens, we will be opening the new holes on the 25th of this month, which is 25th of May 2012.
So this is an ongoing project.
It is an ongoing
Once
project.
you've got the 18 holes, you've got something else.
Oh, yes, there will always be something to do, and because we haven't got secretary manager or paid staff, we have three paid employees on the green staff, and we really should have about 7 to maintain the course. So therefore we have to have a lot of volunteers that come in and mow fairways and rough and do trimmings and all sorts of stuff.
Over the years, if you look at the amount of voluntary contributions that has occurred through donations of machinery and equipment and labour, you know, this project, if it had been paid for by an organisation, would probably have cost somewhere in the region of $20 to $30 million. But because of the huge input by volunteer work, all this has been made possible.
It's a lot to be proud of, then.
It is a lot to be proud of, and especially from a small village like this, the community spirit here is fantastic.
Well, these, as you can see, are our new 4 holes, which we have just completed for the opening day in a week's time. And I'll just take you through a rundown of each one of the holes. Right, John, as you can see, this first hole is a very interesting and strategic one. It's heavily bunkered off the tee. There are 6 bunkers on the approach to the green. The green itself is fairly heavily contoured with a fairly large saddle running right through the middle of it. Yes, John, this is our second hole. We're standing on the tee. The green itself is a par 3, 154 metres away. 2 large bunkers guarding the right-hand side of the green, a deep depression in front of the green and steep fallaways to the left and the back. Now, after we leave this hole, John, we travel for about 150 metres to the third hole, which is part of our old back 9. We play them and then we come back through the track, pick up the last of the 2 new holes, which will be our 8th and 9th. Right, John, this is our new 8th hole, which is a 189 metre par 3, very difficult, contour-wise, fairway-wise, and the green itself is quite tricky with a dome shape. If you can't manage to hold the green, you'll be way down the back of the green. Okay, John, we're now standing on the new 9th tee, which is the beginning of the 457 metre par 5, which takes us back to the clubhouse and the commencement of the back 9.
After 31 years of planning and arduous work by the volunteers, members and dignitaries assembled for the opening of the final holes of the golf course.
The procedure for today will be fairly brief. Shortly I'll hand over to President Terry and some of the official guests. Then we'll have the cutting of the ribbon over the road, and we'll have a drink and a few snacks to celebrate the opening. First it was 3, then it was 6, then it was 9, then it was 15. And now, finally, after that 31 years, it's 18 glorious holes.
Dignitaries included President Terry Lilly, former member for Kiama Matt Brown, Assistant Deputy Mayor Greg Watson, the member for Kiama Gareth Ward, and Ken McKay, the course architect. So with great expectation, the members and officials moved across the road to the first tee for the cutting of the ribbon, officially to open the course.